Hi, this is Tanya Sheridan from In All Sassiness Designs, and today I'm going to show you how to create this beautiful wood grain pattern out of regular white daisy cardstock, and then how to stamp on that and make your own pattern paper. So we are going to need a couple of things. You're going to need 2 inks. I'm using Evergreen from Close to My Heart for the stamping element, and then linen for the distressing. We're going to be using the Sage Liquid Pearls by Ranger. And then the stamp set I have chosen is Lucky to Know You from Close to My Heart that has this beautiful, 3 beautiful shamrocks on it. So we're going to set those aside. I have my 1-inch blocks, and we're going to pull out our scoring board to get started. So I am choosing to use the ScorePal scoring board. It is my favorite. It has deep grooves and it makes the whole process a lot easier. This is a piece of just regular white daisy cardstock from Close to My Heart. It's a little bit heavier than our regular cardstock, or at least it feels heavier. And I'm going to turn my scoreboard this way so that I can see it better. And I'm going to follow all of the grooves of the board with my scoring tool, and I'm just going to come all the way down each groove. Make sure you get all the way to the end. Now the grooves are at different measurements. You can do whatever measurements you want. I just found it was easiest just to go ahead and follow the grooves of the board. They're different spacings. And then I'm going to flip my paper over, and you'll see that in a second, to the back, or to the other side, rotation I guess. And then I'm going to do the other grooves, so that I have even a few more. You can use any measurement that you want. So you could do it in 1/4 inch pieces or measurements. You could do it in 1/2. This one I like just because it has several different ones there, and you can play with all those different measurements. And if you don't get one completely straight, no worries, because the wood grain is rarely straight, right? It just gives more character and more depth. I have a couple more here. Oops, missed the groove on that one. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rotate it and look for any groove that I haven't done. So just to give me a few more grooves going down. Most of them on the second half of my board are already grooved. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I am going to flip my paper over, and you should be able to see the grooves. Probably can't see it on the camera very well, but you're going to be able to see them in a few moments. And we're going to take the linen ink pad, and we're just going to use the ink pad, and we're going to go up and down. So just slightly like this. You want to cover both sides, just like that. And then I'm going to take it again and go this way, just with a second swish to make mine a little bit darker. Now, you can see a couple places that I intentionally only score deep in one section, like here to about there, that one about there. That just gives it a more defined wood grain look, okay? Now, I have used my all-purpose mat as my bottom, so I'm just gonna take my Stamp Chamois, which is well loved, and just wipe any excess ink off of that, and then come back with my paper. Now for this particular layout, you'll notice that I did the shamrocks at the top, and on the opposite page it's at the bottom. So I only need to do about 2 inches of this pattern. You can do it however it best fits you. I am going to pull in a piece of scrap paper, so I'm going to slide this over just a little bit so you can still see a little bit of it, but not necessarily the whole thing. So I'm going to use a scrap piece of paper. I have chosen all 3 of the shamrocks. You'll notice on the stamp set that there's a big one, there's a solid one, and then there's a tiny one. So this one is more open. They're each a little bit different. And I'm gonna do those up there. So I know that approximately right here, the 2-inch mark is about where I wanna come down. If I go down a little bit farther, no worries. That way it'll look like a more traditional piece of paper and not have a straight across line. Okay, so I want my shamrocks to go different ways, right? Because I want it to look, you know, kind of mixed up and not so uniform. I do want to make sure that they're all at least 2nd generation, if not 3rd. So the big guy, I am going to just stamp and then stamp off on my scrap paper and then stamp down, okay? And I'm just going to continue to do that all the way across. I will tell you that if you stamp over the scoring lines, you do want to be a little bit more careful when you're stamping because it doesn't stamp as evenly. I'm okay with that. If you see, it gives you a little bit more of a distressed look, and I like that look. But if you are uncomfortable with that look, then just stamp in the more open spaces. Now, you'll notice that I am rotating my shamrock because I want it going different directions. I'm leaving space because I want to fill in with the other pieces. This particular stamp, I did everything 2nd generation, okay? So far, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna do a couple strategically placed 1st generation, so that those are a little bit more spread out. And it looks like this space right here needs one, and I'm actually gonna stamp that off the page. When you're stamping off the page, you wanna be a little bit more careful just to make sure that you get across that seam without messing up your image. Okay, so that is for the moment how I would like to have that part. Then I'm going to come back with my 2nd shamrock. This one is the solid one. And so this one, I'm going to do pretty much the same thing. I'm going to stamp off because it's too dark for what I am looking for as a 1st generation. I'm going to stamp it once and then twice. So this time I'm not as purposeful, and I'm going to go ahead and do both the 1st and 2nd generation. And I want to make sure that I kind of mix them up so that they're not all in the same space. Again, I want to do a few that are off the page. So I'm going to be a little bit more strategic. Now, I'm not going to do a 1st generation if it's off the page, simply because I don't know exactly where the ink came off and I don't want to mix it up or mess up my image. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple more, and then we're going to fill in with the small one. And then if there's any spaces, then we'll fill in even smaller. So I found that when I'm doing random stamping, it works better to start big and go small. That way you're filling in the spaces and you don't end up with huge holes. And you can do these as close as or as far apart as you desire. There's really no right or wrong. I am trying to make sure that with my generational that I don't have all light on one side. Okay, so you can get them as tight as you want. If you want to go back in and fill in some spaces, you can. Like I can see that right here I have a bigger space, so I'm going to just go in and fill in that little hole. Maybe I want another one here so that a couple of them are a little bit closer together. That's completely up to you. But you just fill in any spaces without overlapping. I think I'm going to leave that one off there and do a medium to fill in my hole there. And maybe one off the edge up there. Oops, that one I actually didn't do 2nd generation, but that's okay. All right, so now that I have this done, we're going to go in and do the details. Now, I'm going to use the Sage Liquid Pearls, which are by Ranger. I do want to point out, if you were using this as a patterned paper like this, and you know that you have pieces, you don't want those liquid pearls under the cardstock because it's going to pop up a little bit. So typically, if I was doing this for a layout such as this one, I would have the layout completely done, and then I would go back and add my little dots. But I know about where I want them to go because I have this as a pattern. And so I'm just going to come in on the large shamrocks only and do a dollop. And then when that dries, it is going to just give you that extra kind of shiny gloss feel and just an extra layer of medium. I'm leaving these blank because these are going to be covered by my cardstock. And then after I put the layout together, if I decide that I didn't cover one of the shamrocks completely, I will just come back and add that extra liquid pearls. And there you have it. That's all there is to it. You have created your own wood grain shamrock or stamped paper, and you can then use it in your own projects. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.